So, where were we? Now in my last video I showed y'all what it took for me to repair the bow rider portion of the cap. But what I didn't show was that during that same time I was also working on improving another part of the cap. That improvement is what I want to show you in this video entry. Now, way back when I first purchased the Glastron, I noticed that there were a few components missing. What was missing, you might be asking? Well, that would be a radio or audio system as I referred to it. It's no secret that audio systems weren't a standard factory option on lots of older boats like mine, so I wasn't surprised by not finding one installed. But to make this boat my own, I knew I would be installing one in this boat during my rebuild. And right now, with the cap being repaired, with it being off the boat, this is the perfect point in time to get started. So, to get started, I began by building a base for my audio system head unit enclosure. Now, when I say base, that's exactly what I mean, because I will be mounting this single DIN aftermarket enclosure to a base that I will construct.
Alright, so to get started building this radio box, I had a bit of a rough idea of what I wanted to do. I just needed to figure out how I was going to make it happen. So I went to Home Depot and I bought a 1x6 by 8 board. I brought it back and I cut it to just a little bit wider than the glove box here on the passenger side. We are looking from the bottom view here. Then sometime before this, I also had purchased this single DIN aftermarket radio holder here, and I knew I was going to use this. I just needed to figure out how to make it work. I just started kind of playing around, trying to figure out what I wanted to do exactly to make this mount. So as you can see here, I am just taking some scrap pieces of wood here with the piece I had already cut to figure out what would be the best method. In my head I was thinking there are 6 points that this thing needs to screw down to. So I was thinking along the lines of making some kind of just like a skeleton. Just have a board in the back and a couple boards that go on the sides and fiberglass that all together and be done. But after spending a bit more time on it, I come up with a different solution. I took a marine grade piece of plywood here and I cut it to sit on this lip. As you can see in the front here where the cap actually comes down, there's a little bit of an edge there of fiberglass, so I've got it resting on that, and then at the back I was going to mount it to the board that I had cut originally to start with. So it's going to be fiberglass in front, fiberglass and screwed to the back, and then from there I was starting to put together that, alright, well I also need to use these pieces I cut, turn them sideways, and that will give this the legs to sit on this platform here. So it'll be attached to the glove box, and then it'll be attached in the front along that edge, and then it'll be attached on that back board back there. And then once I get it all attached, my thought was I'll fiberglass it all, make it one complete unit, and then all I'll have to do is just drill some holes, screw this box down to it, and that will be all it takes to have a radio box and a Glastron that didn't have one to begin with. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using the staple gun to fasten these pieces of wood together. This will allow me to remove the wood here temporarily while mixing up my fiberglass putty, and then once I have the putty ready to go, I'll lay my beads of putty out and setting this piece back into the putty and letting it cure. Now what I'm doing here is there's actually a notch that I'm going to make in this piece of wood so that will fit flush against the fiberglass that exists already. And you see me bring it back here right now. You see a little notch I created. That's just to make everything have a really good fit and make it look nice and neat and not just kind of slung together. Now this is a different angle of the same thing. This is me doing the fiberglass putty. This is what I mentioned just a few seconds ago. Everything is in place. I'm about to remove it all now that I've kind of got my layout here and know where everything needs to go. And as I've done before, basically like making a icing bag here, put your putty into a gallon Ziploc bag, cut the corner off, and then it will allow you to place your bead of putty wherever you need it to go. I'm doing one for this vertical board that goes here along the back side. Again, just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm locating all this, this is the bottom side of the glove box. So this is where I thought would be best. That way the passenger in the boat can control the radio. It's out of the way. There's plenty of room over here on the captain's side. There's steering components and all kinds of stuff, so it was much better location on this side of the boat. That's the other reason for doing it here. But again, I've made my first initial bead. I'm going to go ahead and put one under each of these supports that it'll sit onto, and then along the front half here. So here I go, just doing a bead here on each side, and then it'll be one across the front. So once I have my putty in place, then I set the new base down into the putty and smooth it out with a spatula as I've done before, and then put the back plate on, smoothing it out as well. And then just for good measure, I make sure I put enough putty in all the cracks, make sure there was no gaps or whatsoever. Now once everything kicked off, I was ready to apply my layers of fiberglass tabbing. So to do this, again, just pre-wet the areas with fiberglass resin. So once I had all these areas pre-wetted down, I then took tabbing and attached as many pieces as I could, making sure that it was adhered to the existing cap as best as possible. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, this has 6 points here that need to be ran with screws. So all we're doing here is just marking each of the holes where we want them to be pilot drilled, and then we're going to drill out these holes. So again, pilot drilling all 6 of these holes here into the marine grade plywood radio base. I'm going to be using some prime guard 1¼ inch screws. That's what I had in my shelving unit over here, so that it saved me from having to go purchase anything. Now here we're applying our masking tape around the edges here, because we are about to start laying down some black Rust-Oleum paint onto this new freshly built area. I want to kind of go over it, and I want to paint the sides of the boat leading up to that. Make it all kind of one nice piece. As you can see, there was originally some black along the side there that goes up to the bow rider foot area. So my wife here is putting down the Rust-Oleum, and she's going to paint all of that area as well. But just to get started here, I masked off a short little area, and I'm going to catch back up with her here in a minute and tape off the rest. This paint worked out pretty well. It was a Rust-Oleum with primer in it, so it went down pretty nice, and we went over a lot of the new areas and blended into the existing. So with the paint dry, I was able to install the Underdash enclosure here using prime guard screws like I mentioned before. I'm going to put a link below in the description here to this piece that you can buy. I remember picking it up in Bass Pro Shops. I can't find it on their website at the time that I'm editing this video, but I'll put a different link that I did find online to this piece here.
Now after I had the base built and then that radio bracket attached and everything was painted, I was ready to jump ahead just a little bit. I finished this on a Sunday, and then I was able to convince my in-laws the same day to come up and help me and my wife, then flip the cap, lift it up and put it on top of the hull and have it kind of resting there. Now I knew going into this that the cap wasn't going to be fitted into its final resting place, because I still needed to clean up the cap before fiberglassing it to the hull, and at the same time I need to clean up the transom and get that prepped for that hull to kind of be put together in the very back. And I just knew I couldn't get help later during the week, so I kind of jumped ahead, lifted the cap to get it setting and resting on a 2x4 spanning the hull. Now with the cap resting and just sitting here, I worked on running wires from the new radio box all the way around the cap from port to starboard side.
I just briefly want to mention what I'm doing right here. This is the wiring going across the front of the bow. I wanted it to be attached to the cap here above the door getting into the front compartment. So I just put tape temporarily to hold the wires and then put PL glue on top of the wires, fixing them permanently to the cap itself. There wasn't a space here to run wires through like a tray or a trough of any kind, so this is why I did the glue solution here.
Now that I have the speaker, power, battery, and ground wires ran and tucked away, I found myself at a stopping point. And I now can begin focusing on getting the cap reinstalled. This is where I'm going to end this video, because in the next video I'm going to show you all the prep that I have to do in order to get the cap setting down and then glassed in. There's some cleanup that I have to do and a few things just to kind of wrap up and actually get this thing in place. So, as always, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you can follow me along as I get this old Glastron back up and running. As always, my name is Josh, this is the jmink channel, and I'll see you next time.